Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the wider issue of government patronage. That's giving out lots of money and goodies and well-paid, prestigious jobs. These can be do-nothing jobs, by the way. You're listed on the website as being the executive director of this or that, but in reality, you just hang out on the beach and having a good time, or out on your motor launch while you pull the big salary. Maybe you turn up for a once a month meeting or something like that for a few hours, but it's patronage. It's a gift you're given for, maybe it's for your loyalty, maybe it's for past services rendered, maybe it's because you're a buddy of another guy who they want to look after, and he says, look after my buddy. But it doesn't matter, whatever it is. It's not to do with your competence, your capability, your ability to do a job or anything like that. There's nothing for you to do, but it is a hell of a prestigious sounding thing. Maybe you get to cut a ribbon every now and again, and you're paid a shitload of money for doing nothing. A bit like Hunter Biden's role in Burisma in the Ukraine, where he gets $700,000 or $800,000 a year paid to him for being on the board or on some advisory committee or something. Very much part of how things are done within the wider patronage network. Now, patronage has always gone on, by the way. It's not something that's new or unique to today or the Democrats or the globalists. It's always been going on, but it's the extent of it that becomes the issue. Now, if the people that you're handing out the patronage to are also loyal and dedicated to your policies or your government, or maybe it's in the private sector, committed to the company's goals and objectives, then that's fine. Maybe they're not very good at it. Maybe you could have got someone quite a bit better, but look, they're trying hard. They're doing their best. Their heart's in the right place, and and they are trying in their own feeble way to earn the money you're paying them. But at least they're not against you. At least they're not sabotaging your program. And that's something to be said for that alone, I guess. But so patronage has always been around, and people tend to gather loyalists around them. Some of these loyalists will turn out to be reasonable performers, others not so much, but at least they're loyal to you. Now, you can argue disloyalty can also be pulling a big fat salary while doing very little, but at least they're not sabotaging whatever your program or policy or whatever is. Now, with affirmative action, diversity, equity, inclusion, and globalization generally, the globalist way, in the way that they pay off Zelensky, Ukraine, we will make you richer than fuck, but you've got to do what we want. And that involves, death of a few million of your fellow citizens. Not a problem if I'm going to get rich. So this is, very much a thing that the globalists, and we looked at how the globalists have got to the American, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumer's, the list goes on of people who've been made very rich by supporting globalization and standing by while their own citizens in their own country are driven into the ground, but they themselves get rich. Now, if you look at, say, a younger Chuck Schumer as a case in point, he at least he came across in the speeches he made very much a committed American patriot and wanting the best for his fellow citizens. And again, they could have been empty words, but that was it. And then the change in Chuck Schumer, and while he was involved in my view, this is my opinion, of course, while he was involved in selling out his fellow citizens, his bank balance was getting drastically and radically bigger. So patronage has been around for a long time, but we're in an era of globalization where their go-to method to corrupt people is to say, we will make you rich, but you've got to do what we want. And this has created a new area of patronage, also has expanded the patronage base. And again, patronage has always gone on, but it was the extent of it. Just my own experience in the private sector is going into an organization that was hemorrhaging, losing money by the gazillion. And my job was as a compromise candidate. All the other candidates, each party and power group favored, so they all neutralized each other. And I became the compromise candidate that nobody was opposed to, but equally nobody supported. And I was stunned at the level of patronage. Everybody in a senior decision-making position or a well-paid role, everybody was a patronage hire. And the friends she's a friend of my daughter's, this, that my sister is married to this, and so on and so on. Everybody was nepotism, but patronage in particular. But none of these people gave a fuck. They were there to collect their big fat salary, swan around like they were important, heavy hitters, but not do any work. And they just didn't care about the business. So whilst they were, as in socially loyal, as in part of from the same social class, as they were socially loyal to the CEO, they were, undermining him and stealing money from him and not supporting it. They weren't opposed to his platform, but their own interests and lining their own pockets came first by far. And if their interest in lining their pockets conflicted with his interest of running a successful business, then it was their interest that came first. And when you sit down with people, say, look, you realize the company, in 6 months, this company will go bust. It won't exist. So why are you wanting to desperately hang on to your illicit expense account when, why don't you just get everyone else to give up something, but I can keep my illicit sort of good. What? And they were quite, no, nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that? I'm allowed to do that. Why do I have to care about someone else? It's my pocketbook that's the issue here, not someone else's. And do you realize the company's going to go broke though? So, why is that my problem? And this is the attitude of most who are on the patronage machine. Now, coming to government now, well, once the globalists sort of took over the Western world and said, look, we're making the big decisions here, not you. We make the big decisions. So you, the local government of Britain or Australia or I don't know, France or Germany, you don't make decisions anymore. Sure, you can decide, how many lesbian painting classes you want in some village in out in the sticks. You can make those decisions, but the big decisions, the big economic decisions, the social structure decisions, legal decisions, mass migration decisions, all that sort of stuff. We make that. We tell you. You may be elected by the people that think they're electing the government, but you work for us now. And this is very much how the globalization project is. Now, once the government no longer is responsible and accountable to the people, which if they're globalist controlled, they're not. Once they get to this, then they start acting like children. I mean, look at the government of Britain, for example, the Labour government. They look like they're like a bunch of first-year college kids, sociology class running around pretending to be very important. I mean, it's insane. I mean, would you put any of those people in government? I mean, really? But they don't have to make the globalists are making all the decisions, and they just do what they're told. So they're now a bunch of children running around playing house, and they're just issuing, pointless, ridiculous things, as in, again, how many lesbian painting classes and so on, or doing on the ground stuff that the globalists are telling them to do. You make sure all of those people, you make sure that the media all says anyone that disagrees is far right, Nazi, Hitler. You make sure that, and that sort of stuff. But it also means that as they're no longer responsible, but they still have nominal control over vast sums of money, the taxpayer money that's being collected. Now, the globalists are directing them to use that for globalist purposes, such as make sure all these illegal aliens get free legal aid. But, even though no one else can get it, these illegals from the third world, they should get free legal aid because of some vague notion of human rights or some shit. So now, I've done a lot of business with government over the years, and the amount of patronage certainly, I think, took a big uptick once the globalists began to take over, because there's simply just more people they had to reward and more people they wanted to bring into the fold. Whether this is journalists that do hit pieces against Donald Trump that have to be well paid, or whether it's public servants that facilitate mass migration, whether it's judges that send straight white males to prison or something, it doesn't matter. But there are a lot of people who have to be rewarded and again given jobs and allowed to swan around as if they're people who wouldn't otherwise have ever got jobs or wouldn't have otherwise got the. I mean, you look at some of the junior judges that are appointed. I mean, they're schoolgirls, for goodness sakes. You wouldn't have them sweeping the floor in an outer suburban supermarket or grocery store. So I'm in in the nation's capital at one time, and recently, and there's a committee. We had this contract, and there's a committee that is being set up to investigate some future technology, and so I and my colleagues just assumed that these guys must be like IT or experts, comms experts, something like that. So we didn't really think much about it. But we would have a meeting with this committee, and so we strolled in, assuming that they would give us valuable information. And we noticed how many young women there were in this committee, and none of them seemed to know anything about anything. They were just airheaded little bimbo flunkies. Some of them look pretty hot, by the way. And we were surprised by this, that again, they just didn't know anything. And we couldn't even find a single person on there. They said that a guy who hadn't been able to come to the meeting, he was actually the technical guru, but he wasn't available on that day for that meeting. So what are we supposed to do here was sort of my question. They just shrugged and said, well, who cares? Hey, what, you expect us to answer the question? You expect us to know what's going on? I mean, you silly little boy. So anyway, when I walked out, I was parked on the other side of the parking lot, and there was I walked out at the same time as, or in the same direction rather, as one of the young women in the on this committee, and I was sort of intrigued. Well, how come you? Because she mentioned something about because I said, well, shall we meet again next week when this guy's around? She says, no, I have to go on overseas trips on study tours and this sort of thing. Well, what are you going to study? Oh, but really, and she was quite open with it. No, I'm just going to have a vacation at the taxpayer's expense. Sure, the pretext or the bullshit reason is I'm going to investigate or research something or other, but some technology or other. But that's just the bullshit sort of pretext for it. I'm actually having a vacation. By the way, I deserve one. Now she's dressed in designer label clothes, very well made up. Again, looks pretty. I mean, she looks like a high class hooker actually. That's and has that dismissive, casual crassness that those women have. But she says that she did the PR for one of the federal politicians. She was handling his PR. I don't know what basis she got. I don't think she had that in her at all. So what she actually did, is only anyone's guess. But she supposedly did that. Then he made sure, this politician made sure she got appointed to this committee, because not only did it pay very well, it had lots of international travel, all first class, by the way. She's not traveling coach and staying in a trailer park. I mean, this is all 5-6 star travel. And so she gets to travel around the world, which involves a lot of beachfront locations. And she gets to travel around the world on the basis she's on this committee doing important work. Now, all this is money looted from the taxpayer. Not only is she not entitled to that job, she's done nothing to earn it. Now maybe she screwed the politician. I don't know, but she ended up getting being gifted this piece of patronage, where in reality someone like her, the best job she could really hold down based on her abilities, as I would assess them, is maybe a receptionist in a legal firm or something like that. But you wouldn't give her anything else to do. But then she's got a job that doesn't require her to do anything. All she does is spend lots of taxpayer money while pretending to be important and so on. But she's one example, but there are gazillions of those examples. And as we can see through USAID in the United States and the work that Doge is doing in the United States, There are literally millions of these jobs across all levels of the public service. You look at the Shaniqua in Los Angeles, who's in charge of dispersing aid and help assistance to the homeless. I mean, she's paid $400,000 a year for a job that apparently requires her to do nothing. These sort of jobs are all over. Now they've multiplied and mushroomed out of all, out of sight since the globalists have took over, because there's more and more people they need on there to support their illicit gravy train. And so they've expanded the number of jobs by looting the taxpayer, expanding the number of jobs in across these NGOs, quangos, government departments, the list goes on. Entire government departments. For example, there was a regional government in Australia that set up a climate change government department, and they employed 20,000 radical blue-haired, green-haired activists to work there. No, there was nothing for anyone to do or nothing for anyone to achieve or accomplish. I mean, they were all just bureaucrats shuffling paper back and forth between themselves, but they all were getting overseas trips. And again, this is first class. They were getting access to first-class lounges in airports and all these things that they could never have dreamed of getting on any form of merit. But again, these amount of jobs have ballooned to astonishing proportions. So when you look at patronage, what USAID's doing and the money they were spending, the looting of the taxpayer, most of this money was going on expanding the patronage network, and a bunch of useless parasitic people being given very well paid jobs with lots of benefits, when in reality, again, they would be lucky to get a job pushing a broom. And yet here they are. And this is where a lot of this money is going. But how the patronage network operates. Another case, there was someone who'd been in charge of the catering of some government function, and they were rewarded with a study tour to some exotic island like Tahiti, where they were rewarded with a 3-month thing where they're supposed to study the migration of ants across the sand, or some bullshit invented thing. And they're given this, but they for 3 months they got to stay in a 5-star beachfront hotel, all expenses paid. That was their reward for doing that. And this type of thing is so widespread that it's got much worse since the globalists took over. Now, when we have responsible government, where the government is actually sovereign, then they represent the people, and they tend to be a little bit more or substantially more careful as how money is spent, what it's spent on, and does it achieve something for the quality of life of the citizenry. But once the globalists take over, all that goes out the window, and everything is just open slather patronage. You've been attached to us today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.